an internationally renowned instructor with black belt degrees in 10 different martial arts styles. Dave's recognized worldwide as the industry's trainer of trainers. People from around the world routinely visit Kovar's Sacramento facilities to learn his instructional techniques and implement those techniques at thousands of schools around the globe. Along with legendary martial artists like Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee, Dave was recently inducted into the prestigious Martial Arts Hall of Fame. This Kovar.
So this is honestly, I think, the first time I've ever spoken sitting down. We'll see how it goes. I'm used to standing when I'm teaching. So first off, thank you, Kurt and Steve, for inviting me here today and all the help you guys have given us through the years. I thought I'd give you kind of a quick history of our business and the breakthroughs that we've had. And we started out, I opened up 6 months out of high school, November of '78. That's all I've ever really done. Martial arts I didn't ever find it, it found me when I was a kid. It's just, I saw a silhouette of someone doing a flying sidekick and I didn't know what it was, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I love what it does for people, and then when I started teaching, especially kids, but people of all ages, it really addresses the issues, whether it be obesity, violence, lack of role models. It really covers so much for so many people. And so I've always been real passionate about it. But the first 9 years, I really struggled to make the business. I was just hand to mouth getting by. And then I had a couple things that went in my favor. Number one is in about 1985, there was a movie you might remember called The Karate Kid that came out. And that changed our industry overnight. So all of a sudden, it was accepted for kids to be able to do this. And I had kids and adults before that, but I had the largest kids program in Sacramento County in 1982. I had 11 kids in my program. And it just shows where it was all an adult market. And very quickly, overnight, the business changed. And my older brother, Tim, I encouraged him, who had a background in business, to become my partner. So he partnered up with me in 1987, was actually my partner for 20 years, and really helped us grow. So we grew organically through the 90s. Business was great. We opened up slowly a school here and there to where we built up. In 2003, we had 4 facilities, and we're doing great. We had no real delusions of grandeur. We were just kind of doing our thing. We opened up another school, and we had another instructor ready to go. And we were approached by a gentleman that had been studying our industry and thought, I think there's a chance, a possibility for a national presence in this, because it's a cottage industry. It's just mom and pop centers. And are you interested? And my brother and I weren't real interested for, probably a year. We went back and forth until we finally decided, okay, let's do this. And with the goal of having a couple hundred schools by 2015. And so we were infused with a bunch of capital, a lot of it local, okay, from some people in this room that signed on that helped us grow this thing, and we started growing dramatically fast. And to me, it felt a little quick, but I was surrounded by a bunch of really smart guys that said we can do this, and so I felt, okay, let's go for it. And so we went from 4 locations to 20 in about 2 years. And not only we were up to 14 locations in Sacramento. We had 1 in Oregon, 2 in the Bay Area, 2 in New York, 1 in New Jersey. And the model was actually not doing too bad. But what happened is long about late 2007, early 2008, and I'd like to blame it on the economy, but I really can't. It was, I think, more than anything else, it was our expansion. It was just a little bit fast. And all of a sudden we found ourselves a bit pinched, where we were losing a lot more money than we were making, and our capital was running short. And it was a real dark time for us as a company, and also for me personally. That just really, you guys have most of you guys at some time in your life experienced a situation to where what's going out is way more than what's coming in, and that weighs on you heavy. And fortunately, about a year earlier, Dave Chamberlain, who some of you may know, who's been a panelist before, we recruited him to join the team. He basically came over as CEO and has done a marvelous job. But in the process, there was a moment I'll never forget, and it was my breakthrough. It was my turnaround point. And we were trying to figure out how we're going to make payroll and how we're going to pay the bills. And still, we have all these leases all over, that we've got to, we're obligated to pay, and we're trying to figure out how to do it. And my outlet is martial arts. I don't have any other hobbies. It's what I do for a profession, but it's my hobby. It's what some people golf. I like to choke people. All right, in the best of ways, guys. With a willing partner, I should say. And so one morning, I'm with my training partner. We're doing some jiu-jitsu, And the object of jiu-jitsu is you're trying to submit your partner. You're trying to get him to say uncle, and by tapping, you know, and it's a very safe way to train. And so on this particular day, I'm working out with my partner, and I find myself in a really bad situation. He's on top of me. He's doing a gi choke, and I realize that if I don't do something different very quickly, I'm going to have to tap, which isn't the end of the world, but that fragile male ego, you know, that many of us have, didn't want that to happen. So I started to panic a little bit, and then I thought, wait a second, I could tap if I have to, but I don't have to, not yet. So I relaxed, I took a breath like I've done 100 times in grappling before, and I pulled some of the pressure off my throat, and I took a deep breath, and I could feel his choke start to loosen. Imagine if you're carrying 2 5-gallon buckets of paint, and you're holding them up nice and high. You can do that for a few seconds. Eventually, they're going to drop. Well, when you're grappling, what you're waiting for, often if you're in a situation, you're waiting for the guy to kind of burn himself out. And I could feel the grip loosen, and I managed to fight my way out of it and recover. Well, I got done, and it hit me like a brick. You know, with our business, we had a lot of smart people saying, you ought to maybe look at filing for reorganization. It's just not something that we wanted to do. And after that moment of training, I remember thinking, you know, we could tap out as a business if we had to, if we wanted to. In other words, we could file, but we don't have to, not yet. There's too many people that have kind of been counting on us. And something just happened for me that I just had this irrational sense of optimism that just kind of took over. And my partner, Mr. Chamberlain, and I, we started brainstorming with a bunch of really other smart guys. What can we do? Our model had been to expand to 200 locations by 2015, and that's clearly not going to happen. Now we're fighting for survival. And so we started looking at, you know what, we can still influence the industry, the profession. Our goal is really to empower people through martial arts training on a bigger scale than just Sacramento. And we don't have to do it with brick and mortar, we can do it through influence. So first thing we did is we started bailing water out of the boat. So we went from 20 locations down to about 8 in about a year, either through selling or closing or condensing locations. And we just really downsized our staff to where we had just key players, because our industry is completely a people business. And one of the challenges that we ran into when we were expanding is I used to say, this is systems driven with personality. That's how you're successful in the martial arts business. And I've come to realize that it's personality driven with systems. It might sound like semantics, but it's the most important thing that I have when we're teaching martial arts is the instructor-student relationship. And if I don't have the right guy doing that, we're not going to experience success. So we made sure that our team were the right people in place and tried to treat them the best we possibly could. And then we started looking at our 8 locations that we went down to as our centers of excellence, our laboratories where we could really fine-tune the model of teaching martial arts professionally and how can we retain students the longest. And then we started a division called Kovar Systems, which is our mentoring program. And now we have several hundred schools. We actually influence a lot more than that through different instructors, events, and seminars, but we have actually several hundred people in our mentoring program now that run schools. So we're still able to expand on a global scale, but just not through brick and mortar. And it's proving the future looks very bright. Now, we lost a lot of money for many years, and we've still got some serious things that we're working through, but the good news is we've been profitable since 2010, and our goal is to make good on every dime we've ever had anybody invest in us. So, and it's looking good. I mean, the future looks bright. So what I thought I would do is I've got 7 steps that I follow. And for the sake of today, I've renamed them the 7 steps to breakthrough. How's that? Okay? So step number 1 is acknowledge and accept where you currently are right now. Okay? That's first and foremost. How many times do you guys know somebody that has got an excuse for why they are where they are? It's not their fault, it's this happened, if only I would have had better genes, or if the economy would have been different. And all that might be true. But here you are right here and now. This is where you're at. And there's only forward, and there's only now. And so what can you do? And once you do that, it's kind of like you're taking charge of your school, your business. You're like, okay. So that's first and foremost, step number 1. Now, step number 2 is that you have to believe that your best year's in front of you. Okay? Now, it's real easy. There's a phrase maybe you guys have heard, the older I get, the better I was. Right? And I have a friend, every time I get on the phone with him, he wants to tell me how great business was in the 90s. Back in the 90s, we go into this thing, right? And I find it's real easy for me to revert back as well, but I think it's important we cultivate the belief that our best years are in front of us. And I had this one particular student, her name was Terry Poxton. And Terry Poxton trained with me for almost 20 years, and about 10 years into her training, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And she had this great attitude about it, and she was determined to, do everything she could to maintain her health at the highest level possible. And so she continued to train. I remember one time after a particularly grueling workout, she was sitting over the side, and she was just kind of very fatigued and tired, and I went over to her, and I didn't know what to say, so I asked her a really important question. Anyway, I said, hey, is there anything you can do to make it better? And not knowing else to say, and I'll never forget what she said. It was extremely profound, and I think about it every day. And she goes, you know what? I know I can make it better because I can make it worse. And think about how you might apply that to your relationships or your business or your health. Sometimes you wonder, can I make my business any better? Well, here's the answer. Can it get worse? And if you say yes, then you have control both ways. Sometimes it's more obvious the negative way, but if it can get worse, then that means that you reverse that and you can make it better. So that, for me, that was a real breakthrough hearing that. And I think sometimes it's hard to cultivate the belief that our best years in front of us, but the bottom line is that I'm reminded of what Plato said, be kind with whom you meet, for they are fighting a hard battle. And everybody's got challenges, right? But chances are challenges you've been through in the past, you can look back on, you may not have enjoyed them, but you're a better person for it. And sometimes we forget that when we're in the moment, and so that's what I always try to do. If I'm faced with a challenge, I think, you know what? I'm going to get through this, and I'll be better for it. And sometimes the answer isn't always clear, but that irrational sense of optimism has always helped dramatically for me. The next step is create a vision and visit it often. And what I mean by that, this is goal setting 101, right? Got to know where you're going, want to go. But I think what's important is sometimes we forget that we lose sight of our vision, where we want to be. And there's three types of motivation. There's desperation, there's inspiration, and there's purpose. And sometimes we do something because we're motivated out of desperation. We got to get it done. And I've certainly been there, and chances you guys are as well. Then other times you're motivated by inspiration. You saw something, you spoke to somebody, you heard somebody speak, whatever, just inspired you. But both of those tend to be temporary. Purpose is having a clear vision of where you want to go. And that tends to sustain you for the long haul. Okay? Step 4 for me is take action. And it's basic stuff. We know this, but sometimes I think it's important to remember that motivation follows action. You don't get motivated, you take action, and the motivation follows. And sometimes you don't feel like doing stuff. All right, and it's okay not to feel like doing stuff. You just do it anyway. I'm reminded of when I was in 5th grade, I got a new chore from my father, and it was mowing the lawn, and it was pretty cool because I got paid for it. And the first time I did it was lots of fun, and the second time it was pretty cool, and the third time it was okay. And by the 5th time, I didn't want to do it anymore. And I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I don't want to mow the lawn anymore. And he said, son, you don't have to want to mow the lawn anymore. You just have to mow it. So that's really self-discipline. That's what we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? It's like take action. You don't have to. Some days, man, I can think of times in our low spot in 2007-8 where I got to come up with payroll, and I got a staff of 30 people waiting downstairs this Monday morning, and I got to motivate them and inspire them for the week. You know, I'm not feeling very motivated and inspired right now. What am I going to do? But you know, you suck it up, and you just, you put your game face on, and you do what you got to do, right? And it always gets better if you have that mindset. The next step is stay the course, and this is again pretty simple, but the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, but that's just the beginning. You got to keep stepping. You got to keep going. And the bottom line is that most people, quit before they're, maybe success is really close and they just kind of give up early. And I want to make the analogy of a professional pitcher. I promise you that I can hit off of any pitcher in the major leagues. Now, I'm probably not going to do it in 3 swings. It might take me 500, but eventually I'm going to get a hit, right? And so that's kind of how it is. And we don't have 3 swings. You can keep swinging, and you can get creative. But the trick is just kind of stay in the trenches. I'm reminded, and I replayed this quote in my head 1,000 times, and that was, I think it's Teddy Roosevelt that said, when you get to the end of the rope, tie a knot in it, and hang on. And I think it's great advice. Okay, so that's step 5. Step 6 for me is keep your center. And we talk about that a lot in martial arts. What I mean by keep your center is you perform so much more when you're at your best. So the name of our schools, originally we were Self-Defense School of Karate, then I switched the name to Twin Dragons, then we are Kovar Family Martial Arts. But when we decided to do a national expansion, we wanted a name that had kind of a double meaning. And the name we stuck with was Satori. And Satori is a Japanese word that the literal translation is a moment of enlightenment or a moment of deep understanding. Now we modified the title a little bit, the meaning for us, to being in the moment at your best. And it refers to that present state of consciousness when you have mental clarity, you have physical energy, and emotional calm. It's being in the zone, basically, right? And we've all experienced it at one time or another. And so the trick is how can you maximize the amount of time that you spend in the zone, really? And I think it sounds simple, but man, you start with good health. 3 pieces of health puzzle: exercise, rest, nutrition. And I'm amazed by how many really smart people don't get the connection between how they treat their body, how they take care of themselves, and their success in business. And I think they're directly, if you want to sustain long-term success, start with yourself. Put yourself in a situation to where you're at your best and you're going to be at your best for everybody else. And I think where a lot of us are weakest when it comes to rest. I don't know about you, but I know myself, I pride myself in being able to work really hard and push through deadlines, and I'm guessing a lot of you guys feel the same way. Well, sometimes what happens is we let a lot of little things really add up. Just for fun, I want you guys to take your water glass and just hold it straight out to the side, if you don't mind playing along with me for a minute. This is pretty light, right? It's not too heavy. How's it feel in about a minute? Not bad. It's a little heavier. How about 5 minutes? How about 2 hours? You're dying, right? You can put it down now. Well, or drink it. There you go. Well, what happens, I think, is that we have all these little things, these little stresses that we never put down. Okay? And they start to seem insurmountable. And if we simply, a couple times a day, man, even when you're busy, especially when you're busy, just put the do not disturb sign on your door. Sit back and take 10 deep breaths. Right? It sounds, simplistic, but man, it makes a big difference. What you're doing is you're putting down those challenges temporarily, so when you pick them up, you're fresher for it. The last step, number 7, is value your relationships. And this is one of those things where I think we all understand the importance of it, but maybe sometimes it's easy to slip away. And the bottom line is it's better to have friends than enemies, right? And we are emotional. There's logic and emotion, and they don't usually mix. When we become emotional, we don't always think clearly. And being that we're emotional, if I can connect with, I know with my staff and students, the key thing for us is really, it's about relationships. It starts with my staff, that I do my best to go to battle for them. I'll do whatever I can for them to help them out in any capacity. And it's amazing how, I do it because it's the right thing to do, but I also know, running a business, that I want my guys to go to battle with me. And if they know I've got their back, they're going to work a lot harder for me. And the same thing with my students. Is that we've got people that will travel by several other martial arts schools to come to our schools. And why? There's a lot of really good guys out there that maybe they're driving by on my school to go to somebody else's school, but the point is because we've established a relationship, and we're doing our best to respect and honor that. And I'm always amazed by how often, just doing the right thing will come back to benefit you somewhere down the line. And I'm reminded about a gentleman you may have heard of by the name of Chuck Norris. So interesting is that now the younger generation, they only know Chuck Norris jokes. They don't even really know who Chuck Norris is, right? So I've had the privilege through the years of getting to hang with him a few times. And one time, about 20 years ago, there was a movie called Sidekicks. You may or may not have heard of it. It was one of his last theatrical productions. And myself and 4 of my guys got to play bodyguard for him when he did a tour of theaters in Sacramento. This would have been, like I said, 20 years ago, and it was a really cool evening. And he was just a gracious guy. You can complain about his acting, but his martial arts is excellent, and he's a sincerely nice guy. And so here's the story that I'll never forget. End of the night, he did a 22-day tour in 22 cities in 23 days. We were his last stop. So for 23 days, he'd been basically signing autographs and shaking hands. The last day, we're at the Cinedome on Greenback near the freeway. This is his last theater. It's probably close to midnight. He's finally closed up. I got to ride around with a limo all evening, and that was cool. My staff was with some chase cars, and I say goodbye to him. We shake hands. He drives off, and I see the tail lights of the limousine stop. And then I see the backup lights go. And he backs up, and I think, oh, he's got to tell me something. He backs up right past me, the limo does, and goes over to where my team is. And he rolls down the window, and he says by name. He says, hey, Bob, Dave, Mark, Ken, I just want to say thank you so much. You've been a big, big help. It's been great fun. See you later. And he drives off. And I thought, man, this is a famous movie star at the height of his career. And he didn't do it because, he did it because that's who he is, the right guy. Now, these guys, to this day, they would go to battle for him for that one little thing, right? Just because he went out of his way to really sincerely appreciate the people in his circle. And I remember seeing that and thinking, wow, if Chuck Norris can do that, I certainly can. So I'm going to go give you the 7 real fast. Number 1, let's see if I remember them. What the heck? Acknowledge and accept where you currently are. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is believe you can make it better. Number 3 is create a vision and visit it often. Number 4 is to take action. Number 5 is stay the course, stay at it. Number 6 was keep your center. And number 7 was value relationships. And so, thank you very much.
As I said, I think everybody would agree we didn't miss anything from Dave being our stand-in today. So fabulous job. I want to ask one question of each of the panelists real quick before we open it up to the audience. So if you can start thinking about any questions you might have for any of the three folks sitting up here with me. And the question I wanted to just pose to everybody is if you could share, you know, a barrier that you are particularly proud of having worked through. You've talked about different things that you know, the industry, your secretary, JV, the client that you've worked with, and some other things. But just one particular